By the time of recording this video, Transition, makers of Infinix, Techno and itel, have a combined listing on their website of 68 phones, and this does not even include their third product line, which is itel. Nokia, on the other hand, has 8, and MI, makers of Realme and Xiaomi, has 10. Simply put, if you are going to the market right now to look for a phone and your choice is among those brands, you're going to have to come through 86 options for just one phone. With the advancing technology, cutthroat competition, and the insatiable desire of manufacturers to make huge profits, customers have been exposed to a daunting task of having to choose from confusing choices and complex high-tech gadgets. Thank you for choosing this video. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it. Just like the internet, a smartphone is an essential part of any human these days. People spend their life savings just to acquire a phone. In a market flooded with options, it makes it so hard for one to make a choice, or very impossible in certain situations. With a lot of twists and turns in the naming and series, it can only be left to those who are so technical to make the right choices. In this video, we crack the code on how to separate Max from Pro, 5G, X, Y, Z, the twists and turns manufacturers add to the naming of their phones to make buyers pay the money they want. At the end of it all, you only need just a few things, a handful of things to look at while choosing a smartphone. And this video gives you 5, which are not exhaustive but very comprehensive, I promise. Thank you for choosing my channel. Kindly like, share, subscribe, comment. The memory. This is a key component of any smartphone, and this is divided between the RAM and the ROM. RAM, which is also called the random access memory, determines how fast your phone will perform assigned tasks and respond to commands. And this does not work in isolation. It works hand in hand with another spec, which we are going to look at next, called the processor. The bigger the RAM, the better, so this should be very easy and straightforward to determine. RAM, on the other hand, is called the read-only memory. Other people prefer calling it the storage or internal storage, and this is where system files and other files of the user are saved. So the bigger the ROM, the better. However, this may be extended, but you should remember applications saved here do not run as fast as those saved on the ROM. If you extend memory with a memory card, you may not get good performance. So how much memory do you need? I would recommend 4 to 6 GB for the RAM and 64 to 128 GB of internal storage. This attracts a bigger cost, but it's ideally where the phone will give you some better performance. I know entry-level smartphones can hardly go beyond 2 GB of RAM and 32 GB of ROM, but this performance here will be so sluggish and frustrating. So we go to the next spec, which is the processor. This is like the engine of a smartphone, and it's a very vital component of any smartphone. It's quite technical, but not so difficult to understand. It is denoted in terms of clock speeds, which are in gigahertz. It's like a phone with 1 gigahertz performs 1 billion tasks per second. And simply, the bigger the gigahertz, the better. This determines the speed and the ease of execution of tasks by a phone. It works hand in hand with the RAM and other components of the phone. Number 3, the camera. A very interesting part, a very interesting topic. I want to save you from the confusion which manufacturers are so obsessed with these days. That is the number of pixels and cameras at the back of the phone. This is just a marketing stunt. This is just a hype. What determines the quality of any digital camera is a combination of specs. I believe this is the most technical bit of choosing a smartphone, and you really need an expert in this to guide you and also to do some tests of the pictures that smartphone is taking so as to see the quality of color, the color accuracy, the sharpness of the object captured, like that. So I'm going to run through, give you 4 of those qualities which are key while choosing a camera of any smartphone. Number 1 is the quality and size of the sensor. This is very important because it forms a picture out of the light it receives. Number 2 is the quality of the lens and also the size of the lens. This is very important because the lens is the one that receives the light and focuses it on the sensor. So the sensor can make a picture out of that. The only way to test this, unfortunately or fortunately, is to take a picture with the camera and see. So another thing you need to look at on a camera is the aperture. So aperture is the opening through which light enters the lens or enters the camera. So this is very important as it determines the quality of the picture as well. This is normally denoted by f-stroke something. So I've seen something like f-stroke 1.2, and the lower the fraction, the better. So we go to the last one, which is the most common and most sought after, and that is the megapixels. Megapixels determines the concentration of light on the object. So megapixels determine the sharpness and clarity of a picture taken by a digital camera. So this one is very important, as we have seen, but it doesn't work alone, as many people have been made to believe. It works in combination with the others we've talked about. It is important, yes, but doesn't work in isolation. So the number of megapixels and the quality as well. It's not just about the number and the quality. A phone with 48 megapixel may take a picture which is of lower quality than one with 20 megapixels. Don't fall for that trick again. Do not be duped by manufacturers again. The role of a battery to a phone is one that doesn't need much explanation. This is a part that provides power to the rest of the components of the phone and enables its functionality. Where there are so many technicalities and nitty-gritties involved in how a battery works or provides power to a phone, an ordinary user is interested in only one thing. For how long will a battery provide power to the phone after a single charge? And that is what we call the battery capacity. This is measured in terms of milliamperes, which are normally denoted with an mAh. The capacity or the ability of the battery to store power and provide it to the phone. And you realize that this is a simple one to determine. The bigger the mAh or the bigger the capacity, the better. And there is need to match the phone functionality and specifications to the capacity of its battery. Like a phone with so many functions and specifications should have a bigger battery. For entry-level smartphones, choose a battery that is not less than 3000 mAh. And for mid-range phones, choose a battery that is not less than 4000 mAh. There are so many other aspects which determine how fast the battery will drain, and this involves the operating system of the phone, its ability to optimize power usage, and how much you use your phone, and the battery life. This depends on the cycles. How often do you drain your battery up to 0 and charge it again? Every time the battery drains to 0 and is charged again to 100 is one cycle. The reason some phones may have big batteries and still perform poorly is because of operating systems mainly. Some systems are not good at optimizing battery usage. They allow a lot of bloatware. This operating system doesn't have the capability to switch off background usage or bloatware from infringing your phone. Be careful which applications you install on your phone, as this can also have an impact on the battery usage and how well your phone will retain the charge of your battery. Last but not least is the year of manufacture, and this is one of the areas that is least paid attention to. Latest models tend to have superior functionalities and specifications as opposed to their predecessors. Here you'll combine a lot of functionalities. I've only highlighted 5 points, but the real task of choosing a phone that works for you within the same budget goes beyond the scope of 5 points. That's why I'm advising that you go for a model that has just been released. It's really painful when I see people buying phones which were released 2 years ago. If you're buying a phone in October, be sure that no phone has just been released, let me say in August. You'll be saving yourself from a lot of stress. And a lot of things I've not talked about in this video will be well covered in a later model. For example, operating system. And you'll have better specs like build quality, screen to body ratio, better display, a lot in there. And latest models of mid-range phones are actually monsters. They're very good at performance. Choose a phone that was released as lighter as possible, as this will enclose so many of the things we've talked about, and you'll not have to go through so much hassle, as you'll have a better camera, better operating system, better display, better build quality, fast charging, battery, so much. Can't mention it all in this video. I just want to thank you so much for watching till this time. It's always a pleasure and eternally grateful. Click the like button, subscribe to this channel, comment so I can know what we need to add onto this channel. Feel free to navigate the channel and watch some videos I've dropped in there. There is a very good video about whether education is still useful in the current society. My name is Francis. It's always a pleasure putting a video up here, and much better a privilege for you to watch it until the end. Share the word, dreams of success. Feel free to support this channel. We are mainly concentrating on basic, entry, and mid-range phones. These are the phones manufacturers make for customers on budget, and this cuts down a lot on specs and functionality of phones, rendering some of these phones useless in a short to medium term. These are phones where there is a lot of cost saving on the side of the manufacturer, because they are looking at people at the tail end of the budget. These phones normally have a RAM of not more than 2 GBs. They'll also have storage of not more than 32 GBs. These phones are troublesome. They are entry-level smartphones. These phones are for people who would like to join the world of smartphones but may not have a lot at disposal, or they want to spend so much on a smartphone. The real starting point of smartphones, and they have some acceptable minimal level of specs and functionality. Fairly good, but will hardly do any much tasks. People who buy entry-level smartphones can really afford mid-range phones. The difference really is not so big. You'll get a phone of say $250, and yet the mid-range level is say at $280. I wouldn't really advise someone to buy phones of entry level, as they tend to be a waste of money. With time, due to software upgrades and application updates, these phones tend to slow down as space is depleted and the processor becomes weaker for the newer software. For the mid-range phones, this is a lucrative market, and even prominent manufacturers like Nokia and Samsung are into this. And sometimes really there is no need to go high-end, as most functions here can be performed by a mid-range phone. I would really encourage everyone to stretch a little further and go for a mid-range phone. These are phones with a RAM of 6 to 8 GB and storage of 64 to 128. I'm so glad that you've watched till this end, and I guess this video will somehow help you spend your money the right way, and thank you for supporting my channel.